What's going on, boys and girls? What's up, world? Austin John Plays here, and today, on the 17th of October, about a month out before the release of Pokemon Sword and Shield, there was an embargo lifted for a whole bunch of people who have had a chance to play Pokemon Sword and Shield for about an hour and a half or so. Today is the day that they decided to release all that information, and I'm going to be going over all of the talking points from 6 different articles. Let's get into it. There are 3 YouTube videos by Alex of VG247, Alex from Nintendo Life, Janae and Max from IGN, The Verge, Eurogamer, and Game Informer. Quite a lot to go over. I'm going to be going through all this, and I'm going to just edit the good talking points. That way, you have a very concise list of details that you want to know about these games without all the fluff in between. You can use the Switch Pro controller. At the beginning of the game, you get to choose your basic looks, gender, skin tone, etc. Instead of Professor starting out the game and explaining things, you see Chairman Rose in the middle of a stadium in the style of a TV broadcast. After a brief speech, the undefeated Galar champion Leon emerges to begin a battle with a character that cannot be yet discussed. Leon calls out his Charizard, and it cuts away just as Charizard starts to Gigantamax. Your mom is called Mum, because the game is based in the UK. The first small town of the game is called Wedgehurst. No matter which starter you choose, your rival Hop is going to get the one that is weak to yours. The champion Leon then gets the starter that's strong against yours. And then you start with a rival battle. That's where I want to jump to something that Alex from Nintendo Life said, that this game does not do a lot of hand-holding at the beginning. Instead, you're thrown into this rival battle, and Hop is going to have the starter who's weak to yours, but in addition to that starter Pokemon, your rival's also going to have a Wooloo. You're going to be able to take Wooloo down, you're going to gain a level, get an elemental type attack, Vine Whip, Ember, Water Gun, whatever have you. And then, because you have that super effective move, you're going to be able to take out that starter Pokemon and gain a healthy amount of experience that way. It seems like that's a running theme, that they don't hold your hand. Instead, they actually lead you to doing a mechanic, and you get to explore and do that mechanic. Like, doing this, you learn about leveling up, and you learn about type advantages, and then you don't need someone explaining those things to you because you just did them. After getting your starter, you have to go back home to Wedgehurst to Professor Magnolia's lab, and a Wooloo is broken through the fence by your house, so you have to wander into the eerie Slumbering Weald to find it. We see that Wooloo appear in the countryside just hanging out, and Butterfree up there. In this Slumbering Weald, there's a couple of different types of new Pokemon, which cannot be spoken about. As they venture deeper into the woods, a mysterious creature appeared before them. While they can't spoil what happens, I eventually exit the Slumbering Weald, Wooloo by my side, and I'm back on track toward Wedgehurst. This may be our first opportunity to see the evil legendary or a antagonist of the game. Maybe it's Space Chicken. I'm gonna go with Space Chicken. Galarian Poke Centers are a one-stop shop that allow you to heal your Pokemon, change their nicknames, rename them, and delete moves. You can of course access your PC and buy supplies in the shop. Returning mechanic, catching Pokemon gives you experience, nice, and each encounter splits the XP between your entire team automatically. As we learned before, you cannot use an experience share because experience share is on by default and you cannot disable it. The name of the big steampunk gear city that we've seen is called Monostoke. You receive your letter of endorsement, and then a shiny object falls from the sky, or space. This wishing star grants the player the access to the Dynamax ability, which causes your Pokemon to grow massive and powerful in battle. Returning mechanic, TMs in Sword and Shield are multi-use. But before going to Monostoke, you have to go through the wild area. So we know that the wild area, you're going to get access to that very early in the game, within the first hour. In the wild area, it feels very large from the beginning. You get to rotate the camera a full 360 degrees. There are different biomes present in the wild area, with unique Pokemon flying and running around. Weather changes between different parts of the wild area, dictating to an extent which Pokemon appear. For example, if it's hailing, we'll see Ice-type Pokemon. If it's raining, we may see an influx of Water-type Pokemon. In the much larger city Monostoke, that's the first time that we get access to the clothing boutique. There's also a good chance we're going to be able to change our hair and our eye color at this point. Or if we didn't get to choose our eye color at the beginning. Does Eurogamer not have a dynamic website? What is this, 2012? There are now 3 types of encounters. Visible, roaming Pokemon that you walk into, which we've seen those just walking around in the wild area. Traditional random encounters in long grass, cool. And exclamation mark encounters in long grass. that you can either provoke for an encounter with a rarer Pokemon or sneak to be avoided. In the wild area, if you wander into the wrong part, you'll discover that the Pokemon in the wild area can now be drastically over-leveled. Like it should be. Like an RPG should be. Like if you're playing Final Fantasy, you go someplace you shouldn't be, a level 40 dragon shows up, your team is level 12, and you all die. That's why. You could always dip your toe into the odd high-level route on the other side of a city, but never get caught in a battle with a level 50 third stage evolution Pokemon with your starter and a level 6 Pidgey. Pidgey confirmed. We've seen something kinda like this, that in the wild area, with a kinda low-level team, there was a wild roaming Machoke and a Galvantula, so these evolved higher level Pokemon just kind of exist in the overworld. And if you start to see them roaming about outside of the grass, you start to know that either it's a rarer, higher level Pokemon, or the Pokemon in that area are just generally higher leveled and you should not be going there yet. But it makes me wonder that if you catch these higher level Pokemon with a lucky Pokeball or a Quick Ball, is it just smooth sailing from there? There's a kind of vendor in the wild area which seems that they could grind out for a dedicated currency for, if I really wanted to, and buy super strong TMs with it early on. This ties in with something that IGN said. First of all, you get access to your PC from the start menu while in the wild area. Let me say that again for the people in the back. While in the wild area, you hit the start button and you could swap the Pokemon on your team. Kinda like how it was in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. In more traditional routes and Pokemon centers, we're led to believe that it's going to function normally, and that you have to go to a Pokemon Center between routes, or something like that. While in the wild area, you earn a special currency called Watts to buy camping gear and curry ingredients from merchants in the wild area. The game also supports local and online multiplayer, in which you can battle and trade like normal. You can visit each other's campsites, which we've heard about. You could team up for max raid battles, which we know about. However, you can only, and I quote, ping your friends in one location right outside the wild area. And with this game having no native voice chat, and I doubt that it's coming to the Nintendo app, you are probably never going to speak to these people you're doing raids with, or set up a Discord server. Or join my Discord server, discord.me/AustinJohnPlays. In the wild area, there's now an objective marker and a little sentence in the top left reminding you of what to do. A pleasant quality of life update that's more about modernizing Pokemon as an RPG than dumbing it down. Eurogamer and VG247 both spoke about being based off of, you know, Scotland and England, that there's a lot of British slang. Like people will call you mate, call the television a telly. Your mother is no longer mom, is mum. And there's a drink stand in a city that looks like a British pub. From what I've gathered, you're going to be able to save right in front of encountering your starter. There's a very quick scene, and then you get to nickname your starter, in which you get a full screen of that Pokemon. On this screen, we're typically shown if it is shiny, so if you want a soft reset for a shiny starter Pokemon, then you can do that. And of course on the Switch there still is no soft reset. You need to close the application and restart it. The Pokemon RPGs have lagged behind in pure visual fidelity for some time, even by the Nintendo console standards. And technically, Sword and Shield are no different. Everyone says that the frame rate is stable, there's no hiccups or drawbacks. However, the game runs at 720p docked at 30 FPS. Once again, 720p, 30 FPS. And as Alex from Nintendo Life said, I should probably change that. That's slightly better. Pokemon on the 3DS was a real visually stunning, this is what you want to aspire to. And now on the Switch, it's kind of an average game, visually speaking. That's fine. You don't play Pokemon for the visual quality. We've been playing on something that's 240p for the last decade. One of the most interesting additions is a, quote, very strong looking, quote, Pokemon. If you remember Let's Go, with the smaller large Pokemon with the red or blue auras, it's a similar idea. A Pokemon with a barely noticeable yellow glow will appear on very, very rare occasions in the wild. They only saw 2 of them in their entire hour-and-a-half playing, and you'll get a bit of flavor text when the battle starts, noting that their apparent strength. Rather than size, though, these have much more unusual aspects. Yellow glowing Mons have at least a couple of max IVs. And they have an egg move rather than the regular ones too. Nice. I feel like this is going back to what we used back in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, when you start the game and there's the rush slilling grass, and then you go in there and you get a Poochyena with the egg move. Onto the Verge's article. where they did state that in the beginning of the game you have a chance run-in with a powerful Pokemon of ancient legend, Space Chicken, setting up a fateful meeting far down in the line for the narrative. Most Pokemon games in the past start off slow and predictable with the standard tutorials and a lot of time spent wandering around tall grass so you can catch backup Pokemon or train your starter enough to take on the first gym leader. None of that really happened. I did catch some new adorable Pokemon, and I did pick the Weeping Sobble as my starter because who would dare choose another? Grookey Gang. Merch available at austinjohnplays.com. The game's first gym leader is going to be in that big, steampunk-looking town. Massive environment filled with wild Pokemon trainers, fishing spots, and underground dungeons that contain what Game Freak is calling max raid battles. What underground dungeons? Is that little beacon of light that we see actually an entrance to an underground dungeon and that's where the max raid battle happens? I'm confused. Again, for Gigantamax and Dynamax max raid battles, you're going to use AI team members, which Game Freak says will be standard for offline play. Everyone pretty much says that the max raid battles aren't a joke. They take a while. So only one last note, and that's from the VG247 article, which confirms that there's no voice acting in the game, but the characters' lips move while their text boxes appear. That seems to be the end of all the real noteworthy things that I have come across between these 6 news sources. And I hope that this consolidation of all of it was super helpful to you, and if you found something interesting, do me a favor, hit the like button down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. Until next time, Austin John out.